Lockdown lesson 3, build your network. And lockdown lesson 4 is take care of yourself.
Yeah, that's really, really important. So important.
Yeah, really, really important. So yeah, that's the summary kind of what I thought.
Yeah. And how have you handled it then emotionally? Because I mean, everybody's been really up and down with it all, eh?
Oh yeah, me too. Absolutely. I think I found it the hardest in the middle, when we actually were open, but these constant changes and regulations every week. Like, oh, now you can be open until 10. Now you can be open until 6 outside, but 8 outside. Now you can serve alcohol. Now you can't serve alcohol. Now like that kind of every week was different rules. And I found that's the toughest part.
Sorry, just grabbing my phone. It was on the phone.
Yeah, of course.
On the floor.
So that was for me the hardest part. Sure.
Yeah, and I was checking out earlier what the prognosis is for when they're opening up, and they already seem to have a whole bunch of ideas about how it's going to be in terms of everybody has to be out by 8:30. If you're eating inside, alcohol only with food, but if you're consuming outside, then it's 9:30, and it's like, what? That's mad.
It's just not, and it's not even proof that it's in the bars that is happening or restaurants that is spreading, So, yeah. So that's a tough part.
Fun.
Hi. How are you?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah. So I'm just letting people come in gradually.
Of course.
And then we can get started about 5 past when everybody's here.
Exactly. You're expecting a few?
So I don't know. Let me see. How many have signed up? Because the difference between those people who actually say they're going to turn up and those people who actually turn up is obviously very different.
Oh yeah, it's always like that.
On Facebook, isn't it? Because people see an event and they're just like, "Oh, go in, I'll go to that," and then they either forget about it or they can't make it.
Yeah.
We have that.
And is it an open event that you could actually share? Because I think I just put it up that I was gonna speak about it.
It's actually a closed event because the She Means Business Scotland is only for people who are in the club. So there's about 500. How many people are there? 540 people in the club. Yeah, 41. 541 people in the club. So those are the people who will be able to join the event. But obviously, we've been sharing it out on Twitter and LinkedIn and everything like that and telling them to come and apply to join the club. Obviously, the only criteria is that you have to be a woman and a girl and be interested in business, really. So it's not too exclusionary, although some people would probably complain, I'm sure.
Yeah, that is not for when. I'm sure.
Indeed.
I think we can be allowed to have something. So, Emily, in what way are you interested in business?
Well, I'm currently working with Finn and definitely in a more creative advertising marketing sense. That's definitely my key area. But I'm really excited to hear you speak because I used to work in bars and I think it's so interesting to hear the management side of it as well.
Yeah.
It's something which I know little about except from trying to do my best. That's it.
Well, I love the front of house, I must say. That's the best part of the bar, actually speaking to the customers.
No, I liked it so much better than retail because you can get a proper laugh. They actually want to speak to you.
Oh, absolutely. And it's, when you go behind the bar, you're on stage, right? People want to have a good time.
Yeah.
When they're coming in and they want to have the chats. And I think that's the kind of key.
Totally, 100%. Mad stories to tell as well.
Lots of them, lots. So I miss it now when people have to press on the buzzer to kind of get served. It's not quite the same. What about you, Lauren? In what way are you involved in business?
So I work for an organisation called Women's Business Station. So we provide support to women who are looking to either start or grow businesses. So it's good for me to get an insight into all different sectors, really, because our membership spans through everything you can think of, pretty much, from restaurant owners to solicitors to accountants, like you name it, there's going to be someone there. So yeah, I like to just sort of stay up to date with lots of different things, really, and different
absolutely. Oh, there's so many similarities. You know, if you run a business, you basically have, a lot of times you have the same issues, you know. Doesn't matter what you do. And what about you, Amy? What do you do? So, Amy just disappeared.
Oh.
Well, then Lisa is next on my screen. What business have you got, Lisa?
Oh, hi. I'm a writer, actually. So I'm just changing my career from mediation, family mediation, and expressive therapy to full-time writing.
Oh, really?
So I've just had my second book out. I've got a third coming out in May and a fourth one coming out in June. So
fantastic! What do you write about?
Well, the one I've just had brought out is a cozy mystery. So it's the start of a series of 5 set in Edinburgh. It's called Murder on Morrison. So it's about a female sleuth who also bakes muffins.
Brilliant. You know what, during the first lockdown, I actually set up an online event with Swedish and Scottish authors.
All right.
Just for them to share the knowledge, and also to say, like, how does it work to kind of approach the market? You know, if you self-publishing, have to do this, what do you call it, self-publishing, or if you're going through a publishing company, and you know, and that was quite interesting to hear the different.
Yeah. I've just started a monthly online event, which I'm hoping will eventually grow into something regular in the literary calendar, which is called Writers Read. So I host an online event every month for 2 different writers to read from their work, and then we invite an audience. So the audience get to hear, you know, 2 different writers that maybe they've joined because they know one of the writers, but then they get to hear somebody from a different genre. So it's a good way of supporting writers, other authors, and, you know, for networking and to build audiences and readerships, hopefully. So that's every month. So it's called Writers Read. And it's,
so you can join even if you're not a writer?
Absolutely, yeah. The idea is really for writers to be able to read to, you know, to audiences.
Can you invite me?
Yeah.
I'm a big reader. I love reading, and I'm part of a couple of different book clubs. And,
brilliant. Okay. All right.
So,
yeah. Well, if you, it's on my Facebook page, on my Lisa Miles Writers Facebook page.
Yeah.
The next event's in April, on April the 18th, and it's with Mary Turner Thompson, who's going to be reading from her work, and a Scottish writer called Suzanne Edgerton, who's going to be reading from her work.
Yeah, so make sure everybody puts their contacts and everything into the chat as well, so you can follow up afterwards. Remember that after the session, you know, if you go into the chat section and then you click on the little triple dots on the right hand side, you'll be able to download all the information that was put into the chats too. So all the connections, people put in their LinkedIn connections or their website or wherever you want people to follow up with you as well.
Brilliant, thank you.
All right, so let's get cracking. Okay, welcome. This is She Means Business Scotland. This is our twice monthly networking and training sessions that we do for women who are either based in Scotland or mad keen on some aspects of Scotland. So the only criteria is basically you need to be female and thinking about some kind of aspect of business. Today, we are absolutely delighted to welcome Anna Lagerqvist Christopherson into our midst. I'm sure everybody stumbled over that one. I'm so honored to have her coming to speak to us, not just as a big icon in the hospitality industry in Scotland and Edinburgh in particular, but as a businesswoman of long standing over many, many years. And she's had such a lot of great experience as an entrepreneur, as a startup, that I feel like, you know, I mean, I hope you don't mind if I record this session, that we can use it as a podcast, as a teaching module. as something that people would in the hospitality industry will be able to watch after, even though they're not within the confines of this She Means Business Scotland group. So without further ado, let me pass over to Anna, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Yes. So yes, I'm Anna Lagerqvist Christopherson. I don't use my maiden name very often, but I keep it on all my LinkedIn because I still have lots of friends in Sweden and they would never know me as Anna Christopherson. So my background is I'm obviously Swedish, and I am an economist as a university degree. But very quickly after finishing university, I realized I wanted to be in smaller businesses. I like to see the action being done rather than just analyzing. And so when I lived in Stockholm, I was a CEO for a property company. So I used to set up offices, networking offices for lots of small businesses working together, creating meeting places, I created a bar in the middle of the office, a library, a cafe, things like that, in Stockholm and in Copenhagen. And yeah, had a really good job, very well paid. It was nice in all aspects, but it wasn't mine. So back in 2003, my then boyfriend and I, we moved here to Edinburgh just for a little bit of change, staying for a year, have a bit of fun, and then to go back and be serious again and get, kids and a dog and a Volvo and, the things that you do when you live in Sweden. But that didn't happen. We opened up a bar on Leith Walk. And very, very quickly, we had a return on investment in 3 months, mostly because the investment was very small, but also because there was a need. I think we just tapped into, a good business model. There's 30,000 people live between Leith Walk and Easter Road. So we very quickly saw something that we saw what we wanted, and we also saw there was a target market. So and obviously we are now been here for 17 years. So that year kind of extended. We opened up quite quickly several bars after each other. So just before COVID, we had 7 bars. We had a turnover of 5 million and 125 members of staff. So it was all go. It was constant work and loved it. I was also parts that I didn't love. My husband is very entrepreneurial. I'm definitely the operational person within the business. And I would say that I've done most of the jobs that are within running a business. I mean, we're talking sales, we're talking premises, we're talking maintenance, we're talking recruiting, HR, finance. I even did all the VAT reports for a while, usually sitting up until 3 o'clock at night doing them. And yes, it's great to know how to do everything in your business. That's for sure. But I don't think now when I go back and look at myself, I wouldn't try to aim to do everything. And then obviously COVID happened. It's a year now, right? 16th of March last year. Boris Johnson said you shouldn't go to bars. So that week was a complete nightmare week. I just had to shut down 7 bars within 1 week. And then you can just imagine the just practicalities of it, and trying to make, the staff feeling informed when everything changes almost on an hourly basis. Trying to kind of keep up yourself, trying to make sure that it's going to be safe, making sure there is no money, there's no alcohol left in the buildings, all those aspects. And on the 20th of March, we shut down, and I got very drunk. I usually am very good at controlling myself, which you have to be when you're working in my industry. But no, completely, I got very, very drunk and felt extremely sorry for myself on the Saturday, the 21st. Basically stayed in bed all day. And then on the 22nd, I went for the long run. And 23rd, I started looking at my numbers. So I have gathered a few kind of lockdown lessons, because I spoke to Petra before, and I thought it would be good, also for yourself, or for myself, to review what my last year have been. And if I can give any advice or my own lockdown lessons that I've learned, is the first one was cash is king. The first thing I did on the 23rd was basically just sitting and looking at all the bars, looking at all the numbers, looking at which ones can survive and for how long, and what does our cash flow look like? How can I stop the tap? Well, there is no tap, basically, because there's no sales. So, but how can I plug the hole in the bathtub, so that was and I think very, very, on the 23rd, I knew which bars I could save and which ones I couldn't, because I saw in front of me that this is gonna drag on for a long time. So that's my first advice. Definitely look at your cash, look and see what you have. Always make sure that you're not leaking more than you can. Then my second advice, or my second lesson I really learned, was that don't trust any politicians, don't trust any insurance companies, don't believe that you're going to get any money until they actually are in your account. So it's very easy to sit and listen to, the Prime Minister or the First Minister standing talking, but actually what they're saying is not true. It sounds good because they want of them voting, but when it comes down to what you're actually receiving in your bank account as support, it's not the same thing. So I've had to fight for every single grant. I've had to fight for the insurance companies. I fought for ridiculously. Still not a penny has been paid out. And that is 1 year now. So, and that has been up to, Supreme Court. So, you're fighting against, someone that has lots and lots and lots of money that can defend themselves. So, don't expect any funds coming in. My other lockdown lesson is probably much more positive, to be honest, and that is to build your network. It just helps you with your own sanity, if nothing else, but also with your knowledge. So I was already before lockdown part of a network called We Do, and I'm on the executive team. And didn't really have too much time to invest in it before, and I didn't prioritize it. which I definitely should have done. You know, always prioritize building up your network, because it saves you time when you need someone, when you need a tax accountant, when you suddenly need someone that knows how to do social media, when you suddenly need, you know, some other knowledge that someone is expert to, and you know, what are you going to do? Start looking in Google for companies, or lift up and, you know, ask Karen or Neil. You know, it's much easier. So during lockdown, I've spent quite a lot of time on Zoom with different networks, and just to listen to other people's experiences has been amazing. Some people have done really well. Someone has managed to kind of develop their business in remarkable ways. But the key is that we've been there for each other. And there's that kind of, when lots of business people come together and they just open and they say, I'm willing to share my knowledge, just ask me. It's a wonderful thing. And then my last lesson, but probably most important, is to take care of yourself. And that doesn't need to be locked down for that. You need to take care of yourself no matter what. So physically, mentally, for me, that's kind of the same thing. I love being outdoors. I love running. That's how also, this is my only social life I have at the moment, is to go out running with people. So I don't think I ever run as much as I've done lately. But also the other thing is invest in yourself. I did a course at London School of Economics the first lockdown, which was great. So even though I'm not sure if I have any money for that, I was like, well, you know what? I take on my savings, because finally I got time, which I usually don't have. But also at the moment, I've decided I'm going to have a coach. And yeah, you know, I've had several coaches over the years, but I think that's really good, especially when you're a business owner. There's who's gonna train you when you always need to kind of be on top. So yeah, that's definitely one of my recommendations. Invest in yourselves and learn. So that's my lockdown lessons. And now I think, you know, obviously I got, you know, lots of time for you to ask lots of questions, and I can answer anything you want about hospitality business or business in general.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Anna. That's so insightful. So I know that everybody's been putting all kinds of comments in the chat. So let me go through a couple of them. And I also have a couple as well to add to, but I'll wait till after everybody else has done theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the comments have been things like, yeah, we've liked your page. Some Erica, hi Erica, she's up in Aberdeen. She's got many happy memories at Hema in Edinburgh. Erica obviously is the former business editor for The Scotsman.
Okay.
Yeah,
nice.
Lisa is saying thank you. Erica was saying heartbreaking. That was coming out when you were talking about the lockdown. Lisa was saying understandable. Erica's asking, how do you find the right coach?
So I've had a few different ones, and I usually come from network. I ask other people. So one I probably had her for a year, and I felt after a year that, you know, yeah, now I have enough to work on for a while, and it was really useful. This time I actually gone for a guy, just because I wanted to see if there was a difference. I can't tell you yet if it is a difference or not. So, but he does integral coaching. So it's much more about, this is where you are now. This is the metaphor. And, you know, he listens to what you say. And then he says, this is the metaphor that you want to do, you know, want to be. And then you're working towards that. So that's quite an interesting way of doing it. So, yeah, so I usually ask other people who's been your coach and who's been good.
That's a great tip. We've got Amy, who's saying that she is a big lover of aqua, and she's discovered some fantastic new spirits and cocktails there. She's also an Instagram blogger and loves discovering new bars and eateries. So she's going to be adding some of the contacts as well.
Yeah, so that is one thing we actually changed over the year, because, and this is something I'm changing in general for now, is that because we have had so many different bars, and that was just because I wanted to be different. But I realized that it just, the message got a bit blurry. And also I ended up having 8 Instagram accounts, 8 Facebook accounts, and then Twitter. And then, it was just too confusing. So I gathered everything together. And because we sold Boda Bar, which was the baby in the first one, and the website is called Boda Bar, I then decided now we're just going to have one concept. We're going to have one Instagram. So it's just Boda Bar Edinburgh.
Interesting. And so we have a question from Fortunate Esther Abiola, who says, is there an opportunity or a gap for African food to thrive in the hospitality sector in Scotland? Great question.
Oh, absolutely. There's always, depending on what your concept is, what kind of food, you probably maybe have to adjust it, slightly. I will always say it has to be understandable. So if it is an African food and it's called something that is really hard for people to pronounce, then you have to change the name so that it's easy to pronounce, because otherwise people, don't dare to order it. For example, we had, which wine was it? We had a wine called Viognier, and no one dared to order it because they couldn't pronounce it. So then it's no point, right? Trying to sell something if people are like, oh, can't say it. But I definitely think always a chance for good food.
Yeah, and even although I agree 100%, there's also a new Polish cake shop that's just opened up, and the chef himself in Edinburgh, he's come from one of the 5-star restaurants in Edinburgh, and he's decided to call his pop-up cake shop some really unpronounceable name. And he's decided to make that a feature of the marketing. See if you can guess how this is pronounced.
Oh, okay.
This is a shop that nobody can pronounce. All that kind of stuff. Yeah. So sometimes it's good to try and stand out. Sometimes.
Yeah. Well, Prince had a sign, didn't he, when he changed his name? So it might work.
Yeah, exactly. And there's quite a few. In fact, there's a new African restaurant set up in Leith Walk just 2 weeks ago, as far as I know. Yeah, down towards the bottom. I think I came across it. You might know something about it, Fortunate. I'm not sure. I think it was the Kenyan one, because I think it was the Kenyan one that's been doing the rounds of the kind of Stockbridge Market and the Leith Market as well. And now I think they've actually taken up premises as well.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. So it is actually a booming sector. So here's the question. What do you think is going to happen to the hospitality sector coming out of lockdown now?
Well, your guess is as good as mine. I'm sure there will be lots of rules and regulations, and the announcement is basically in 2 minutes, I think. And I fear, the most I fear for is when there's going to be more regulations and more like, oh, you can be open until then inside, but, and then we change it every week. I found that so tough during the autumn, that changing opening hours on a weekly basis and trying to kind of keep up. I mean, I changed the menus almost on a weekly basis. Now we can only do non-alcoholic drinks. And now we can, it was just, it's a nightmare. You're not your own boss anymore. You have the first minister being the boss of your business. It was just, and I couldn't see probably the hardest bit is that you couldn't see why. You know, why are we doing this when there's no proof that this is helping? I mean, I'm all for saving people's lives, but if we cannot see that this is where the spread is happening, why are we so micromanaged?
Great question. Yeah, that's how, and even the indications for coming out of lockdown in Scotland are that there's going to be a difference between those people who are eating and drinking inside compared to those people who are eating and drinking outside. There'll be different closing times for everything, no queuing. And it just sounds like it's going to be quite horrendous. How many companies do you think will actually, what percentage of companies do you think will reopen? Because I'm sure a lot of them will have decided this is useless.
I think there will be loads and loads that close down, and then it will be very quick recovery. So there will be lots of us that have lost lots and lots of money. And then there will always, in this industry, there is always people that want to start up a business. It's usually, I always laugh because either it's the people that have been behind the bar and know how to, do really good cocktails, or it is the guys that have made lots of money and then it's like, but I want to have a bar, and they have no idea how to run a front of house. But there seems to always be people that want to be owning a pub or a restaurant. So I think there will be a very quick recovery, but I think there will be lots and lots of people that lost so much money, and many that will have lots of companies that have had lots of debt. So, I mean, we have decided very quickly on that we won't continue with quite a lot of the bars that we knew was just going to be, it's going to take years for us to pay back. So, I mean, we've sold a few of our business.
Wow. So we've got a question from Annie. Annie's asking, do you feel those businesses who have to pay rent are the ones who will have to close or have closed, and those who own the premises are more likely to survive? Good question.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we can take the difference that we have in our business where you say Joseph Pierce's in Victoria, straight away the landlord came out and said, we're going to give you a discount. And it's been different during the different periods. So it's been, obviously it was full in the middle, but it was 25%. Currently during this lockdown is 10%. And then, oh my God, of course, then I can calculate. Then I can know exactly what my cash flow looks like. I can see exactly what I'm, have to pay. I can plan ahead. I know I'm not going to have massive debts in the end of this. Then we have the landlord for sofas who straight away said you won't get any reduction. And then I was like, wow, thank you very much. It will take me the rest of 5 years to pay this off. So I'm going to sell it. So, in that way, at least I knew, so I could make a very quick decision, which is good. Then we have the landlords of Hemma, which is a German pension fund. They have not even replied to my emails, and I've been emailing on a regular basis. So, so we don't know what's going to happen there. And I've suggested, a national timeout. Why don't we extend the lease? You give me a year's free rent, but, at least you have someone in there. Because it was money making before, I felt, I would love to keep it. But as it looks like now, most likely we won't keep it. That's really, really difficult.
These are, I mean, if anybody's familiar with Edinburgh, these are the icons of the drinking world, of our social life. In fact, they're the anchors of our social life that you're talking about, abandoning our children almost.
Yeah.
Lisa's got a good question. Sweden had a different strategy. Do you think that could have worked here?
Well, I think I have much more faith in the Scottish population that the Scottish government have, to be honest. I've seen, everyone in our bars for the last 17 years. I know how they behave. I know how people are. I know they are sociable. I also see that, 99% are very responsible. Yes, I think it could have worked, but you would have, I think it could have worked. I mean, we had the furlough system. I think what's needed would have been, for us, it was got really costly because we still had to pay all the pensions. We still had to pay all the national insurance. So it was still lots of money going out, even if the furlough system was there. So they needed to have done something like that. But I think we could have had another approach to it. But that's because I believe more in people. I believe that people can take wise decisions.
Good answer. What about, so Annie's asking, was it easy to sell considering lockdown?
Well, it was actually because we had, I had the network. So I had someone that was very interested very quickly. So it was quite easy.
And of course, these are all prime locations as well.
So Sophie's has been a bar for 15 years. It had a great following. Lots of people liked it, and it's not a big bar, but it's very popular. So, and now it's going to be a cocktail bar. So
interesting. We've got a question from Fortunate. Would business collaboration work to revive the hospitality business? For example, cultural collaboration of food.
And I think there is quite a lot of collaboration actually between business owners. I certainly have had much more collaboration and working together with other businesses now than I have before. Maybe it's not like we are, definitely working way more together. And I think I see quite a lot of places that are, the food is being set up in a bar, for example. So there is someone that coming in and doing the food, and the other part is just doing the drinks. So definitely, it's a yes on that question.
It's a yes. Feel free to pitch away, Fortunate.
Yes.
Thank you.
Petra's asking, so how many bars and which ones will reopen once this is over?
For sure, 100% sure is Joseph Pierce's and Victoria. Hemma, I don't know yet. And Akva, I don't know yet. And I don't quite know about Sophie's Southside yet either. I think it will be sold, but I'm not sure. We are in the process of that. So it's a big change. So to the extent that, if we only have two, I'm now starting and thinking of, I should set up another business and possibly do together with other business owners, do like consultancy business for helping other people setting up.
Interesting. And so would you say that there's still an opportunity to make good money in the sector? I mean, I'm thinking here about another Leith icon. So to give everybody a bit of context, I interviewed Anna, how many years ago? Maybe 15 years ago?
Yeah, probably.
Work at Leith FM. And so just at the beginning of the whole the boom in Anna's business. So it's great to get to know her and get to know her ideas for growth in the early stages, and now be able to catch up so many years later. But one of the other icons in the Leith community was a woman called Mary Moriarty, who at the time was saying that there's no money left in bars anymore. There's just no margins and things like that. How have you found the margins?
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, 100%. I mean, there is definitely a possibility to make money running bars and restaurants. There's no doubt about it. You just have to be smart about it, and it's a marginal gain, right? So that's why, I have a company currently that have, want me to get involved, but I was like, no, I don't want to own any business, but I can consult for them if they want. I don't want to have 8 bosses that tells me what to do. But for example, they come from this side where they, they have the money, but they don't have the skills front of house. And then they're just going to leak. They're just going to leak money because they don't have control over staff hours. They don't have control over stock. They don't have control over, what products they take in. They don't have the gross profit control. They don't have the control over the compliance. So it's very easy to lose lots of money in this trade. But it's also very possible to do it. But you have to be in control of so many different factors because the margins are not that high, and you're working with lots of people.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't afford to make mistakes. You really need to know what you're doing in order to make sure that those margins, slim as they might be, are going to always work in your favor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Brilliant. Lisa is saying, Anna, I'm hoping to bring the Writers Read event to alive once this sort of thing is allowed again. Would a bar be a good location, do you think? Nice.
Yes, and yes, and yes. You know what? I've had so many different events in our bars. I mean, I think we've always been famous for everything is possible in our bars, which I now will say it's not, because filling the whole bar with sand just to make a beach bar is a stupid idea. So I'm not going to do that again. But the Writers Read, yes, in the afternoons when it's quieter and people can actually hear each other, it's a perfect idea. So there is a certain time for it. And that's my goal at the moment, is to look at how do I make the bar a place for everyone to be in, but, more over the whole day, rather than just, because we were busy between 6 and 10, but how do you get people to come in and work during the afternoons? How do you get people to come in for brunch? How do you, so, yeah. Sunday afternoons at 4 p.m. Might be a bit busy for usually there is this brunch at that time. But maybe Victoria could possibly do. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Brilliant. I think that has been always one of the big strengths with your positioning and your concept as well, is that it's not the bars were not just the same old grotty bars filled with men consoling themselves in a pint and a what do they call the little
and the sun, yeah. No. Half and a half, you mean? Half and a half is a great concept, but not only for men.
So it was lovely to see that, these were now kind of that crossway between cafe culture and pub culture, where you could go into a pub environment and not have that kind of grotty smell about it, but you could also be a member of a knitting circle or anything as well.
Yeah. No, I think that's always been what we liked, whatever anyone that was working within the Boda Bars, whatever we liked to do, we kind of brought the hobby with us into work. So that's why we have had a jogging club. We have had a language cafe for many years because we had one guy that was really good at languages. So he set that up. And then even if he left, it was still there. We have a jogging club, obviously. The French group is still going, actually, but within WhatsApp. So, yeah, it's just anything was always possible.
Brilliant. And where would you say the direction is going in terms of consumption? Do you feel like there's been a change, well, obviously during lockdown, but over the last 5 years into what people are preferring to go for? Like, are people going much more for the kind of low-cal or food and drink, or vegan drinks and things like that? How much are these kind of new trends affecting the business?
Definitely affects, and it's a great thing. It's really, really good. I find that it keeps everything interesting. I'm also very much for the non-alcoholic drinks, because the whole purpose of pubs are not about getting drunk, it's about socializing and meeting people, and it's always been like that in our bars. So if people are fancy, like, no, I want to have a non-alcoholic beer, or I want alcoholic beer, it doesn't really matter what you're drinking. The trick is to find the good quality one. I'm still searching for good non-alcoholic wine. So if anyone know any drinkable non-alcoholic wines, let me know. Beer wise, ever since I was pregnant, I've always stocked lots of non-alcoholic beers, and yeah, I love it. I think it's good.
You mean you didn't go for Guinness? I was told Guinness was the best thing for when you were pregnant.
Yeah, I didn't go for that. No. But in terms of vegan, it's that is the same as the Guinness. So sometimes you need to have a stout on. Is only 10% that will drink it, but they bring the other 90% into the bar. So it's the same thing with the vegan options, is that you have it. And then for me, it's more about how do you encourage people that are not vegan to eat it in terms of a ecological and environmentally aspect.
Brilliant. So anybody got any more questions? I've got another couple as well. I was just reflecting on the activities of this weekend, for example, where the death of Sarah Everard has triggered a lot of women and girls to talk about their experiences of fear, or being attacked, or being approached inappropriately so many times. I wonder, it seems like it's becoming almost like a watershed moment, like some of the other movements that have happened over the previous couple of years. To what extent do you think that also might affect the hospitality business, despite the fact that I, for one, my one thing I want to do when we come out of lockdown is just sit on the terrace drinking with friends. I think for most people that's the dream when we come out of this.
Yeah. You know what? I get so angry when I read about Sarah Everard and how the police have handled it, and I'm so fed up that I feel like nothing has changed. I mean, I was a teenager in the 80s and early 90s, and I was like, why is never anything changing? Why is it still, I've experienced it in all the countries I lived in, either, being followed or being called a whore or a slut or a cunt, or, and why is that even allowed? And why is it constantly that women should stay home or should watch what they're wearing? And, when is it ever going to be the guy's responsibility to say, like, we are not criminals? They are the criminals. Instead of us should change our behavior. I just don't. I get wired up in this. I get really, really annoyed, and that was actually one of the main things that we said when we opened up our first bar. Is like, this bar is going to be female friendly in the terms of the women should be able to come in, have a glass of wine, sit on her own, not be harassed, not being, commented on. She should feel absolutely safe to come on her own and have a good time. And, then that's still obviously the same for us. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's zero tolerance for.
Yeah, I think it's something that everybody has to think about. And obviously, that's one of the reasons why we have these particular groups like the She Means Business Scotland, is so that, women don't feel like they are being belittled or being compromised in how they're speaking or how they're choosing to communicate. Because obviously out there, a lot of women can feel that they're being, intimidated, not just in a physical environment, but also in the business environment. So that takes me to the kind of the other key question, which is like, how have you found it being a woman in business in this particular sector as well?
I have found it quite positive, actually. Sometimes I've had advantages because it's not always that many women in business, maybe front of house. I have found that I usually have a lot of female managers, probably higher rate than most others, just because, the more women you are leading, the more women are attracted. So it's easier. I also think it's very important to have not just women, not just men. I mean, you probably have worked I've worked with just women and I hated it. I worked with just men and I equally hated that. It's having the mix of genders, mix of nationalities, mix of cultures that makes it interesting. No, I think I found it quite well, but it's easy if you run your own business in some ways because you make the decisions. And I remember I was, breastfeeding both my kids and had meetings with suppliers and they were a bit shocked in the beginning, but what are they going to say? I was like, well, if you have a problem, you can leave and I find another supplier, so yeah, I think I found it quite good in a way.
Yeah, you've asked my next question, which was, as a mother, do you recommend being an entrepreneur and a business owner as well? Because obviously there's a big difference between being a woman and then being a mother.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's been good. What I did in the beginning was obviously I did a lot of the back of house when they were really little. Then I probably stepped out much more since they, after kind of 3-4 years old, I kind of stepped up more. So I think it gave me a flexibility to be there. We haven't expanded past Edinburgh just because I wanted to be close to the kids. I wanted to be there with them. Even though we've been asked many times if we should go to Glasgow, we should go to Aberdeen, we should go, and I was like, no, not interested because, I want to run the business the way I do. I would say, though, honest to heart, I would have done it differently working with your partner. I think that is very tricky and always been, but that's also because we have very different personalities. But be very clear, how you work with your partner, what you expect, and what that person is good at and what yourself are good at. I'm much more of a generalist and I should probably have, said these are my responsibilities rather than sometimes spreading out a bit all over the place.
Amazing. And what would you say would be the learning on husband and wife business relationships? Because obviously, if there's conflict in the boardroom, does that actually spread out to the other rooms of the house?
Absolutely, it's very hard, especially when you're so involved or you're so passionate. Very difficult. I mean, I can see Mike's really strong sides and what he's really good at. And I often go back to him and ask him, what do you think about this? But if I could, what I see now is like I want much more clear divide what our different responsibilities are so we don't get too involved, so that if you're ever thinking about running a business with your husband or partner, then definitely be very clear whose responsibility.
Yeah, because I mean that's the issue with all partnerships in general, never mind emotional.
Yeah, you don't have to be married.
Yeah, because you're always going to find somebody who's a bit of a backslider and then somebody else is doing all the hands-on work, but then backslider might say they're being more strategic. So it's very, very important to map out expectations from the get-go. Yeah,
and I think when you're running your business with your partner and he's, the father to your children, you always, in the end, have the same goal. You want to make what's best for the kids. So sometimes when it's really, really tough, it's actually a benefit because you can't just, kick him out, or you can't, I know so many businesses that have just not worked because the partnership didn't work. because they were pulling in different directions, but we have always pulled the same direction. So in many ways, that has been really good as well.
Amazing. Okay, we've got Amy saying, thank you for raising that, Finn. It's good to get Anna's point of view. Yeah, I think Amy was quite triggered with some experiences over the weekend as well, like a lot of us.
Yeah.
Lisa says, I love being able to go to my local wine bar and just sit there. Yes, that sounds like heaven.
It's so, I mean, there's so many people that are lonely. I mean, I have people just coming and pressing the buzzer on the door just to say hi and have a little chat, because it's just really not fun just being on your own. And I mean, that's the beauty with the British pub culture, is that people can just show up and you meet lots of different people, that you haven't met before. And I think the pub culture is what I call it, the first original social network. And it's so good because you meet completely different people with different attitudes.
I like that. It's almost like changing around how the McDonald's says we're not a hamburger company, we're a property company. Maybe you should rebrand yourself as the physical social networking company.
Exactly.
You're providing that environment for relationships to flourish.
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, so on that note, we shall call it to a halt for today. Thank you so much, Anna, for coming around and sharing all your knowledge and expertise. I hope you don't mind if we cut little bits and pieces out of the experience, and then are able to disseminate your pearls of wisdom to the online community over the next couple of weeks as well.
Yes, of course.
I'd like to also invite everybody to come along to our Clubhouse meeting on Friday, this Friday at 4:30, where we're going to do a marketing breakdown, a marketing clinic, or a marketing critique of All Bar One. So we thought we'd keep it hospitality. Yeah. So we are going to do a thorough breakdown of what All Bar One are doing particularly well online in terms of their website, their Instagram strategy, their Facebook, all of that kind of stuff. And then obviously, the rest of the team will be coming in with like comparisons with other hospitality businesses in the similar kind of niche, so that we can look at what everybody's doing in marketing, and giving out obviously a lot of tips about how people could be thinking about their online marketing strategy in the hospitality sector. So that's
feel free to have a look at Boda Bar.
Okay.
And give me feedback on that. That would be great.
That's great.
Love it.
Yeah, so that's going to be Friday at 4:30 in Clubhouse, but it's also going to be going live on YouTube at the same time. And then it will be turned into a podcast as well. So we're going to have lots of good chats, lots of good strategies, and hopefully lots of people coming in and joining us, and with their ideas of what needs to be done. So everybody feel free to put in your contact information into the chat box as well. Thanks for putting in your information there, Annie, and everyone. And it just leaves me to say thank you so much, Anna. That has been absolutely incredible, mind-blowing, and eye-opening as well. And I wish you all the best of luck for how we get out of this for 2021. I for sure will be making sure that I keep the faith strong by turning up regularly to support.
Yeah. And you can order meatballs until then.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.